So what was it?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GenCast. Why are you talking while we're doing the intro? What's wrong with you?
My brain got a little bit ahead of me. My bad.
Ah, I'm Travis.
And I am Taylor.
So, Tay, what do you think about your life growing up?
Growing up in the 2000s was definitely different. I had a lot more I than I've heard about in talking with past generations. So I had access to multiple different forms of entertainment via console and channels and like Cartoon Network and all that fun stuff. I had a decent amount more of entertainment at my disposal in the 2000s than I heard from past generations.
Did you, though? I mean, I had Saturday morning cartoons, and I had, all that stuff. I had the Scooby Doo and
That's Scooby Doo.
He Man and She Ra, and I had plenty of things I could watch growing up. That's not, you know, a debatable topic there.
Yeah. But I mean, I had Scooby Doo. I had Johnny Test. I had the Powerpuff Girls. Later on in
Oh,
the 2000s.
Powerpuff. Yeah. You're a Powerpuff. All right.
Yeah, Powerpuff was one of my favorites. I stand by
Of
that
course.
to this
Of course
day.
it was. Of course it was.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was a great show. If I could find it on a streaming service, I would watch it right now, actually. At
That's just
almost
sad.
25 years old, I would watch it right now.
That's really sad that you would watch the Powerpuff Girls and you missed out on like all of the good stuff.
I've watched a little bit of He-Man. I watched a little bit
A,
of it.
li- a little bit.
I did. Well, with Prime nowadays, it used to have it, but I think it's locked now, right? Behind a paywall?
And most likely because everything's behind a paywall these days. But did you know? Because I saw it earlier today, just to bring this up. Um, Apparently they're doing He-Man, and Chris Hemsworth is going to be He-Man.
I did not. That would actually like a live action.
Yeah, and
That
there
would
was
be
way
really
too many. There was way too many H's in that. That's why I got the stuttering there.
yeah, all good. I just have one question on that one though. Who's going to be Skeletor?
I don't know. I haven't seen. Let me see if I can Google right quick. Let's
Like who's going
see.
to turn around and hit the line until we meet again? That's what I need to know.
See if I can find anything. I kind of doubt it, but we might. Let's see. I'm not coming across anything.
What is it called? What's the like I am what? IMBD? Is that what it's called?
Man, Skeletor actor.
It needs to be like for the live action side of it.
Yeah, it's got to be live action. All right, so 2026 upcoming film
So it's going to be
Master
a movie, not a series.
Master. Uh, I don't know. I took it to be a series with Chris
Chris
Hemsworth in
Hemsworth.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
With
that's not what I'm
Thor.
seeing. There's a movie though that is apparently coming out, and it's going to have. Let's see the names we know: Alison Brie,
Oh,
Evelyn, Idris Elba as Duncan.
definite watch now. I just saw
Oh
that.
yeah, oh yeah.
Plus
Marina
Allison Brie
Baccarin
and Glow. Allison Brie and
plus
Glow was fantastic. That's a
plus
W.
plus. There's going to be Marina Baccarin and the as the sorceress
I don't know who she is.
from Firefly.
Oh, okay.
That's all I'm seeing on the movie side. I could have sworn I thought Netflix was doing a thing, but I could be wrong. It is very possible I'm wrong.
I'm actually shocked that Prime isn't the one that locked it down, because they locked down a lot of like older stuff that's being remade.
Ah, supposedly, this is on Reddit, so take it what it's worth. Jared Leto has been cast as Skeletor.
Was
I
he?
don't know if that's true. I have no idea. That comment was deleted.
Oh.
So yeah,
Yeah, I don't even know who that dude is. I might not be old
that
enough.
no, you're old enough. You're old enough. It's just yeah, I don't see that fitting, but I could be wrong.
I also don't know
No,
actor names very
wait,
well.
wait, 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 wait. Even IMDb says that in December of 24 that Jared Leto is going to play Skeletor. Really?
Who is he though? I don't know actor names very well.
Well, I mean, you got the internet right there, so just look it up. Look up
Where's it?
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto?
Jared Leto, Leto. Yeah. Um, live action movie 1970s. I don't remember Dolph Lundgren being in a He-Man movie. Am I confused here? What's going on? Let's see.
The only thing I know about Dolph Lundgren is Rocky.
Yeah, I mean that's true, but he was in some other stuff too. Wasn't just Rocky.
Oh, he was the dude that played Joker. Um, that Joker movie really wasn't that great.
Okay, wow. I didn't even know Dolph Lundgren played He-Man in the 1987
Wait,
action
Dolph?
movie, which granted, I never saw the action movie.
I haven't either. I've only seen the show.
I've only seen the cartoon.
Yeah.
Ah,
I don't even know who
okay.
the voice actor was for He-Man or Skeletor at that
I
point.
guess we I guess we just learned something there.
That is that is very true. Do you remember the like old D&D cartoon?
Yeah, I have watched some of it, not a
I
lot
watched
of
some
it.
of it too when I was yeah.
I mean,
It was pretty good.
I'm not a massive D&D fan.
Valid. I was a pretty big D&D fan.
I mean, I'm a fan, don't misunderstand, but I'm not a massive fan.
Yeah, like you're
Like
not
the
going to go out of your way to like keep up with it and stuff.
exactly.
So what about you then? Like what about growing up in the 80s? What was that like?
It felt normal. I mean, that's what I grew up with. Like, the tail end of the Cold War, all of that, Reagan. But I mean, obviously as a kid, you don't know all this stuff. So realistically, my days were spent outside swimming or riding a bike, jumping ramps because, we were stupid and didn't wear helmets or any of that kind of stuff. Um, fishing, go outside and just throw freaking dirt clods at each other out of the garden or whatever because that's what we did. That was just normal.
That doesn't sound much different from most of the stuff that I used to do when I was younger.
I
So,
don't
yeah,
think you. I don't.
like
I don't think you were out in the garden throwing dirt clods at each other before it
nah,
was planted.
that part no.
Before, yeah, before it was planted, it was just tilled up. Yeah, we would just grab the biggest rocks we could find, dirt rocks, granted, and throw them at each other. So yeah,
I
that was
bet that
always,
always fun.
always.
I bet that stung if you actually had like full on actual rocks in it though.
Well, it didn't have rocks in it, but granted, it still stung a little bit. I mean, it's not like we were out there shooting each other or anything, like some other
Valid.
stories I've heard about people. I mean, I remember I went to school with some people, and one of their brothers actually, or cousins, no, it was a brother, actually got shot with a BB gun, except it was a pellet, not a BB. So that was a problem.
Yeah, pellet guns hurt way more than BB guns for sure. They have more PSI behind them. Although those little pump baby guns, you can get the PSI on those pretty high.
I don't know. I do remember one night I was staying over at a buddy's house and we were camping out in the yard and his brother was talking a lot of stuff and he wound up shooting me with his little BB pistol and I chased him around the yard. That was fun. I mean, we're very good friends and all, but that was way back. It was a long time ago now. It's like what, 30 years ago? Yeah, that's about right. About 30 years ago now.
So, do you think growing up in the '80s was better or worse than what it was like growing up in the 2000s, or like, what's your
Um,
opinion on that one?
Honestly, in in many ways, I think it was better because we had less. So we just had to entertain ourselves to whereas like you growing up, you had all the technological advances. You had all the gaming systems. You had all the TV shows. And then as you got a little bit older, well, then smartphones came around and that kind of ruined your generation in a way of speaking because that's all y'all did. I mean, it wasn't everybody, obviously, but a lot of people turned like smartphones, tablets into a babysitter and just let their kids look at that all day and they didn't actually do anything else. They didn't go outside and play. I mean, I know you
Yeah,
played
we
soccer for a while when you were
we did.
little and you played football and you've always done stuff. I've tried to keep you balanced over the years.
Me and
I
my
mean,
cousins would always go outside. We preferred outside over inside, even when we had all the games and stuff. It was just more
right,
fun out there.
right. And there's nothing wrong with that because I mean, I remember growing up, we had the Nintendo, then we had the Sega, and then PlayStation came around. But even all that time,
Still
we would
preferred
go outside.
outside, right?
I mean, yeah, we in the summertime out of school, we'd go out swimming, go out and do whatever, just ride bikes around, jump ramps, and do stupid stuff like kids do, and
Yeah, like those little
go
mud
play.
ramps and stuff that you could make and jump and
Oh
all
yeah,
that.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We built many, and I ran into a tree one time after jumping at one at my grandparents. Had the handlebars going to my stomach. It left a nice mark. That was fun. I wouldn't advise it. That was kind of painful, but
Yeah.
it's a memory that I still haven't forgotten. We're talking like 30 plus years later. So, everything ties together in the end. But I mean, we didn't have a lot else to do. I mean, I remember waking up on Saturday mornings, grab my Flintstone vitamins, sit there in the floor with the whole bottle, pick out the ones I liked, and eat them while watching Scooby Doo and He Man. I mean, that's just what it
Yeah.
was.
We
That's the
had
way it went.
those. We had the
Yeah, that
Flintstone
was
vitamins. They were good. They were
yes,
good.
yeah, that was my Saturday mornings, and this is like before anybody else is really in the living room, or they had already left the
Oh
house.
yeah,
One
yeah.
of the two.
I used to sneak into the kitchen when you or mom were sleeping, and I would like grab a handful of the Flintstone vitamins and eat them like they were gummy bears. They were so good.
That's because they are good. That was the whole problem. They were too good.
They tasted too sweet.
I don't know if sweet is the word I would use, but yeah, they
Fruity.
were good.
Like you
Yeah,
could definitely
fruity.
taste like the flavoring that they used. It was really good.
Yeah, fruity works. I agree there. Well, what about you? I mean, you grew up later than me. What's your viewpoint there?
I mean, I did spend a lot of time outside, even though we had like more in terms of like we had what was out at the time? I think it was the Xbox, like the original Xbox and the 360 and the PS2 and the Game Boy, not the Game Boy, the GameCube. Those were like the
Right.
main three I remember when I was growing up.
Yeah,
But even though we had all of that, and they did have some really fun games, I do remember playing the original Fantastic Four game on GameCube. But
yeah, remember that.
outside was always better for us with like me and my cousins and all. Just grabbing sticks and pretending they were like weapons,
Swords.
like swords or pistols or like whatever our imagination could come up with. Like that was always more fun than just sitting inside and playing a game. And then like the the older I got, obviously, the more I started playing games over like spending time outside, except for like disc golf and stuff, because that was more of a sport though. That wasn't like just my imagination running free. But I do know like the generation, well, even people in my generation that are younger than me though, they choose inside and playing games over going outside. And I don't know if it's like because maybe they just didn't have like cousins or friends or something to like spend time outside with, or if it's more of like a all of my friends play this game, so I'm just gonna stay inside and play that with them, which is also valid. But outside's good for you as a kid. Like you should spend time outside as a kid. I
Yeah, and as a parent, we definitely agree because it kind of wears y'all out. So you'll just
yes, you'll sleep.
realistically shut
You'll
up and go to
sleep and leave
sleep.
us alone.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing better than wearing the kid out by letting them play and just, yeah, they come home and they're like, I'm tired. I'm going to go to sleep. Like, yeah, good deal. We appreciate that so much. You just don't understand.
Unless grandma gets you all hyped up on sugar and stuff, and then you just aggravate your parents all night.
Well, if grandma gets you hyped up on sugar and all, you should stay with grandma and let them or her deal with all of that issue right there.
You start running around the hallway with a sheet over your head because you watched Harry Potter the night before and you're like invisible. You
Oh,
got the
yeah, I do remember that, and I
you got the
specifically remember
invisibility cloak
telling
on.
you that you are not invisible. I see you walking down the hall, regardless of
Nah.
you arguing with me that you're invisible. I remember. Yeah,
Nah, I had
yeah,
my
for sure.
invisibility cloak. You couldn't see me for
Nope,
sure.
you were not invisible. You were just a white sheet walking down the hallway.
You know, one of the blankets that I used to use for that is actually still with me. Like, I can grab it right now. I still have access to it. It was directly behind me.
Well,
I love that blanket. It's comforting.
20 plus years. Well, yeah, about 20 plus years later. Well, okay, let's see. Let's see. You were about 3 or 4 at that point. So yeah, about 20 years later, that's impressive.
Yeah, yeah. I still have it. It's got the airplanes on it and everything. It comforts me sometimes. Like, I mean,
Yeah, you
I don't like use it or anything, but I do have it like to a spot to where,
oh, that's your little comfort blankie.
yeah, yeah. Like when stuff gets stressful and everything, I can look at it and like just remember my childhood, and I'm like, all right, we cool, we
Well, if you
chill.
can remember to where you're like 2 or 3 and remember all that, that is also impressive.
Well, it's more like 4 or 5 to where my memories are the strongest with that blanket, but yeah, it was very comforting for me.
Well, I mean, we both know you're a little bit odd.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have my quirks and stuff. That is for sure,
Well,
for sure.
everybody's a little quirky in their own way. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, like sometimes you do just like genuinely get hyper fixated on something, and it's like the only thing you chase for a while, and then
Yeah,
you get bored of it.
I remember. I was little. I had a little. It was a little plastic dog. Granted, we got to go back to the 80s, okay? And it had a little on its neck. It had a little knob, basically, that you could just move side to side, and its head would turn. Okay, it was plastic, like the whole body was plastic, but its ears were kind of like velvety like. I took baths with that thing. I played with that thing. I slept with that thing, and that was for years. It's a little weird, right?
No,
Because I don't remember you having anything like that,
what are you talking about? I have three things in this room.
like like that.
Yes. Well, not that I like bathed with or anything, because it wasn't plastic. They were all stuffed, like velvety and stuff. So I have the Scooby Doo stuffed animal that is on my bed actually right now. and then I have a Mufasa stuffed animal that is like in the top half of my closet, like right beside a Simba stuffed animal that rattles in the top half of my closet.
Speaking of which, like The Lion King, I remember watching that when I was in what was ninth grade. It hadn't been out
It's that
long.
old?
Yes. So I was roughly 15, 14, somewhere along in there, depending on what time we're talking about. Yeah.
That and Mulan are like my Disney movies. Like that is my childhood version of Disney. And Fox and the Hound.
Okay, The Fox and the Hound, yes. Mulan, not so much. That was never my thing. Fox and the Hound was good, but The Lion King was better. At that point in time, as far as my memory goes, there were only two that were good, and they weren't both Disney, but The Lion King was one, and Toy Story was another.
Yeah, because Toy Story
Toy
is
Story, yeah,
DreamWorks, right?
yeah, I'm pretty sure. Toy Story may have been just a little bit later, like a couple years later, a year later, something like that. I
Wasn't
can't
Toy
remember.
Story like me though? Like wasn't Toy Story
Not the
my aunt?
first one. Not the first one. Best I can remember. Let's see. Let's see.
I'm looking it up right now.
Um, Toy Story
Toy Story what?
original.
1995.
Okay, well,
The first Toy Story
there's
movie came out in 1995, so that's closer to me than it is you. You would have been
there's
like
that
15.
then.
I had to check myself on the math real quick to make sure I was right.
Why are you doing math? Why is that so difficult for you? Why are you calling me old and
You were
stuff?
born in look, you were
A
born in the
long time ago.
80s,
Okay, The
and
Lion King was 94.
so Toy Story came out a year after Lion King then.
And I remember watching it in
So you would have been 14.
probably 95.
So
Well, I
you
mean,
watched it the
you
year
got
that
to,
Toy Story came out.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got to give it a little bit of time because back then, see, like things would come out and then just the way it worked for whatever reason, it'd be like a year before you actually got to watch it otherwise.
That was the
Rough.
spacing between like theater and
Yeah.
out on like a
Yeah.
physical copy.
VHS. Yes.
Yeah.
Six
I
months
mean, I
to a
had
year.
VHSs. I remember that. I remember
So yeah,
VHS.
it was,
DVD
it
was
was,
actually just becoming prevalent when I was a kid. Because VHS didn't take off until 2005. I mean, DVD didn't take off until 2005, if I'm correct, right?
yeah, DVD got it started really getting traction probably around 98, 99 because I was in college. So, yeah, I do remember
Late
that. DVD
90s,
was like
early
the new,
2000s.
yeah, DVD was like the new medium, 98, 99. That's kind of when it actually caught on. So yeah, it's been a minute.
Do you think that, like, the way you were raised, or not raised, let me rephrase that, the age you grew up in versus the age I grew up in, like, influence, like, the decisions that you make in life? Like, because obviously your parents are my grandparents, so, like, do you think the gap between them and you, and the gap between you and me, kind of made the way you viewed and grew up and, like, made decisions in life change based off of that fact?
Mm, no, not really. I mean, because look, realistically, um, from them or from me to you is only 4 years difference, basically, from when they had me to when I had you. Okay. Now, it was a very different time, granted, and there were other circumstances involved. You know, I mean, it's just the way the times were. But you got to think also, because I know you don't know, but I mean, I kind of know and I kind of remember like the 80s was kind of towards the end of the Cold War. It wasn't the end, but it was kind of the end. And you didn't really grow up around that, although you grew up in obviously like the terrorist attacks like 9/11 and all of
Yeah.
that. even though you didn't know, but
Yeah,
you
I was
still knew.
1 when that happened, but yeah,
No, you
it
well,
happened in
yeah,
2001, so yes.
yeah. And then, that went on for what? Over a decade.
Of it
So you
being,
pretty
like,
much
really heavily
grew
talked
up.
about and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, you grew up with that was your norm. We weren't really at war when I was growing up, when I was that age, so to
I
speak.
was 10 when they found bin Laden, because didn't they find him in 2010?
I don't think it was, it may have been 10 or 11. So to just kind of add to that, like, I was 11 during the first Gulf War. That was 91. I remember sitting there because it was my brother's birthday. And that's when they had the footage on the news that night about the airstrikes and all this and that and the other. I remember it clearly. I do. I can like see it. So we're talking like January 16th, 17th. I'm almost positive it was January 17th, 1991, but I could be wrong because that was a little bit ago. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
But I do remember it to where that was the first Gulf War. That was George Bush, senior, the first, whatever,
So,
as president.
just to backtrack a little bit while we're off on, like, the president topic, uh, August 2010 is when we discovered, like, U.S. intelligence discovered, like, where bin Laden was at. And then President Obama is who sent them out in 2011 on May 2nd of 2011. So yeah, I would have been like roughly 11 years old when all of that went down.
Yep, May 2nd, 2011.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, okay, look at it this way. It's a little weird if you stop and think about it, okay? Because I remember like January 17th, effectively. I could be a day off there. 1991, and now you're talking 20 years later on May the 2nd. Um, let's see if I type Gulf War.
If my memory's correct, the Gulf War was mid 90s.
No, right, the build up from August 90 to January of 91.
Yeah,
Desert
August 2nd,
Storm.
1990.
Yeah, I was right. Yes. Desert Storm began with aerial bombing campaign against Iraq on January 17th, 1991. And I remember that night. I remember sitting there in the living room, seeing it on the TV.
You would have been
So
10 or 11,
I
right?
was, I was 10. I would have been 10. Yeah, I'm giving my age away there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do remember seeing that. So I mean, think about it. I'm seeing this on TV. I don't know if you saw
No, I did.
any of the yeah.
I was staying with my aunt and uncle at the time because I had a doctor's appointment the next day, so I was in Jackson when that was going down.
Yeah, you're talking about. Wait, what are you talking about? The Bin
The
Laden
bin,
thing?
yeah,
Yeah,
I was uh in Jackson when that happened.
yeah. Because let's see, what am I looking at? Wikipedia. Take it for what it's worth.
Valid.
Desert Desert Shield was August 2nd. Sorry, of 1990 through January 17th of 91. Desert Storm, January 17th through February 28th. Storm and Norman. I do remember that.
He does weather now, right?
No, no,
No,
no, no, no. You're wrong there.
I mean
He
I've heard your
was.
mom bring up that
Oh,
exact name a bunch of times when
no,
talking about the weather, and she would say Storm and
yeah,
Norman.
but that's a different. It's just a thing. Stormin Norman Schwarzkopf, I think was his name. Am I right? I'm trying to find it. I mean, that
Maybe
seems right, but I could be wrong.
maybe the weather guide took inspiration from that moment then.
Most likely. Let's see. I don't know if I can spell his last name.
Get as close as you can and hope Google does the rest for you. That's all I can tell you.
Exactly. That's what I did. Uh, yep, that's him. And he was actually born in 1934. Wow. I did not know that.
I don't know either.
I
I
did
actually
not.
didn't even realize who that dude was, honestly.
And he died December 27th of 2012. He was like the big thing. He was the general, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When all this was happening. He's from Tampa, Florida. That's interesting. 1956 to 1991 was his years of service. See, I've never researched this. I mean, I remember living through and seeing this, that, and the other, but I didn't really pay attention to the figures. Like,
Yeah.
the people. And he's from New Jersey.
I thought you just said he was from Florida.
He was born in Trenton, New Jersey.
Oh. And then moved at some point and then was from Tampa, Florida.
Yeah, apparently so. Maybe he was stationed in Tampa. I'm not sure. I'm not finding the info there. It was like the overview on Wikipedia says,
Gotcha.
okay, he died in Tampa Bay at 78, but he was born in Trenton.
Gotcha.
Well, I mean, that's kind of typical. I mean, I'm kind of making slight joke here unintentionally, but Florida retirement capital.
Yeah, it is a
U.S.
retirement. Yeah,
Oh,
for
yeah, I mean,
sure.
that makes sense. It is what it is. There's nothing wrong with that.
A lot of people do retire in Florida.
Exactly. So yeah, we both just learned something. Something you never even really knew about, but something I lived through.
Right.
Interesting. Interesting.
So do you think it was mm, I don't know if better is the correct phrase. Let's go with easier. Do you think it was easier growing up back then versus now? Like without all the new tech that we have that constantly distracts the younger gen and iPad kids and all of that. Do you think it was easier growing up in a more simple time
Yes.
without all of this?
Yes, absolutely. Because, and you've brought up one thing and to bring up another that lead into two other episodes that we're going to do at some point. Um, See, you grew up basically connected, internet, smartphones, Facebook, whatever. It doesn't matter. Google, MySpace. You were okay. You're a little bit
I
behind
remember
MySpace. That was
MySpace.
a
I
okay.
remember
So you do.
MySpace.
All right. So you do. All right.
Yeah. The smartphone wasn't out yet when I was growing up. What do you mean?
No, that came out in what, 05, 06, somewhere around in there. So I mean, that wasn't a thing. We didn't have that. We actually had to remember people's phone numbers or have them written down somewhere.
Well, let
Okay.
me let me
And
rephrase.
now you just put
Apple.
them in your phone. Yeah.
The Apple iPhone didn't come out.
Yeah.
The first
iPhone
one,
came out
the third one, in
06, 06.
2007. The very first smartphone was actually introduced in 1992.
Okay. We never saw that down here in the South.
Yeah,
I'll be honest.
correct.
I
Because I
I
just
never
looked it
knew what
up
a
to make sure
smartphone
I
was
wasn't. I had to look it up to make sure I
until,
wasn't tripping.
yeah, I didn't know a smartphone was, what a smartphone was until like 06.
Yeah,
Because I think
because
that's when Android launched and that's when everything was getting like really major. It's like when it was
so
really shifting from just typical flip phone to smartphone.
2007 is when Apple released their smartphone. So that's when the iPhone 3, if my memory's serving me correctly, came out. If not, somebody can correct me in the comments because I'm not looking it up.
Yeah, I mean
Uh,
that sounds roughly accurate.
the first smartphone, the IMB Simmon personal communicator, was introduced in 1992 and was released to the public in 1994. This device featured touchscreen, email, address book, notepad, calculator, blah, blah, blah. All
Okay,
that
who
stuff
made
through it.
that?
IBM Simon.
Okay,
Or
so it's an
Simon.
IBM
Simon, my bad.
phone. IBM phone. Yeah, I don't remember that. I never heard about that. But
It
92, I mean, I wouldn't have been that old.
it kind of looks like the house phones that sit on like the little charging receiver. The ones that you can carry around the house with you, not the ones
Yep.
that are bound by cord. It kind of looks like
Yeah.
that, but with a digital semi-touch screen display. That's kind of what it looks like.
I mean, like the first smartphones, they weren't even smartphones, just cell phones around here that I remember were basically bag phones. As weird as that sounds, it
Are
was a
you
whole
talking
bag.
about like the really big ones that like unfolded?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know
It
which ones
was
you're talking
basically,
about.
yeah, it's basically a whole,
I've never seen it in real life, but
like,
I've seen it in a lot of movies.
yeah, it was a whole deal. Yeah. Look up bag phone. Okay. Like the Motorola bag phone. That's what I remember. And this was around 90, uh, probably
Yep,
around
that's
96.
that's the exact phone that I had in my head. I,
That's
I
about the first thing I remember
I've
around
seen
here.
that in a couple of movies, like
And we
older
did have
movies.
one, but I didn't know anything about a smartphone being around in the earlier 90s.
I mean,
I never
I can't
saw
even
one.
make that joke. I can't even make that joke because the show that I would be referencing with that joke, I was already born when it started, I believe, and it, it would be dogging on myself. I
Well,
was
go ahead and dog on yourself. That will save me the trouble. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, you're old enough to remember the pager, but I'm pretty sure the pager came out in the 2000s.
I do remember pagers. No, pagers were around in the 90s. Yeah, they were around the time I started driving, probably before actually. Honestly, pagers were probably around in the 80s.
Pagers were developed in the 1950s and 60s, became widely
Yep.
used by the 1980s through the late 90s and early
Yeah. See,
2000s.
exactly, because I remember pagers in the 90s
I
when,
remember
like,
them from Scrubs, and that's the show I was
well,
basing it off of, and I know it started in like the early 2000s. So,
I mean, I grew up with this, and I do
yeah,
remember, like, around the time we were driving, people were getting pagers and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I don't know what good it did. I mean, we still had phone booths then to where you could stop and call on a phone booth, but we didn't
yeah.
really have cell phones at that point. I mean, we kind of did and we kind of didn't.
Here's a
I
quarter,
mean,
call someone who cares type
96,
thing.
96, 97 is about the time I remember cell phones being around here, like, no, without being stupidly expensive.
October 2nd, 2001, by the way. That's when Scrubs came out.
Yeah, well, they're a little bit behind on the pager because
Well, I
they've
mean, that
already
would
been
have
around.
that would have fell in like that would fall into when they were still kind of popular.
By 2001, I wouldn't. I mean, yeah.
You had your like
Excuse me.
I remember like the personal little flip phone thing. I actually remember you having like a Motorola flip phone in like 2004, 2005.
Uh,
Or maybe it was a
yeah,
Razor.
yeah, it
I
was
don't
something
remember. It was
similar.
extremely flat. That's all I remember. It wasn't like rounded like the ones you think of now. It was like really, really flat.
I did have the candy bar phone for a while. I'm trying to remember what it was. I'm trying to remember the brand. It was a. Oh shoot, I can't remember.
Okay, I just
I
typed
want to
in
say.
Razor
I want
flip
to say
phone and it gave
audio.
me the new one.
I want to say audio something.
Yeah, it was a Motorola Razor that I was thinking of. It's like a really, really flat flip phone. I don't know
Let's
which
see.
version it is, but the ones that keep popping up are V3. Yours was gray.
I think it may have had an was it Audio Vox? That doesn't quite sound right.
I typed
I
in
never had the
Razor flip
Nokia.
phone.
I never had the Nokia tank phones. I never did. I had audio.
Do you
Was it
remember the
Audio
really
Vox?
popular ones? Do you remember the really, really popular phone from back in the day?
The Motorola Razors were extremely popular back in the day.
The really, really popular. The one that wasn't a flip phone. It was a full-on phone before full-on phone. You remember what it
You
was
talking
called?
about like the Nokias,
I'm talking about the
the tanks?
BlackBerry.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Blackberries. I never had a Blackberry, obviously.
Blackberries were like the thing. Apparently,
Yeah,
BlackBerry still makes stuff. I
yeah,
didn't even know
yeah.
that.
They
I
do.
just learned
They
that.
do. They do still make stuff. Although I thought they had kind of gone under, not under necessarily, but they had like shifted their business model away from phones.
Like the BlackBerry
Um,
Passport, that looks actually modern, like
they've
very
had the
modern.
mini.
Yeah,
They've
I'm
had the
thinking of like
mini.
the BlackBerry Curve, like the older ones, you know. But yeah, when I
I
looked up
bet.
BlackBerry,
Yeah.
it did pop up like a more modern one. That's a smartphone. $300. That's
Let's
actually
see.
not bad for a smartphone.
What am I looking at here? I'm looking at. I'm not sure what I'm looking at. Wikipedia, I'm guessing. That's what it looks like, Wikipedia. So the BlackBerry Limited, 99 to 2016. The Merah Putih, that's in Indonesia. TCL, 2016 to 2020. Really? TCL and BlackBerry? Oh, okay. That surprised me a bit. Not gonna lie. Currently, TCL is worldwide. Everything else looks to be regional, except for the FIH Mobile, which is the enterprise. It also kind of looks like it was discontinued in 22, which I think is that seems right because I do remember reading or seeing, hearing that BlackBerry had stopped doing that. That they weren't in the mobile phone business anymore at that point.
Yeah,
Obviously, I could be wrong, as I so often am. I don't mind admitting when I'm wrong. Let's see, what is BlackBerry doing now? Are they doing anything?
I genuinely don't know. I mean, I did see a
Uh,
modern version of a smartphone on their thing.
I don't know. That's not a name you hear anymore, honestly.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up because you don't hear anybody talk about them anymore. So that's why I was asking if you could remember them. Because I
I
remember,
mean, yeah,
like 101.3 going to school one day. Mom was taking us to school, and they were talking about their BlackBerry and stuff. And I was like, I think I was like either maybe fifth grade or early middle school, like sixth grade,
yeah,
when hearing that. So I was just wondering if you could remember them.
yeah. I definitely remember them. I mean, they were a big thing, but I never had one. Never. I don't even remember seeing one, honestly. And yeah, I had a candy bar phone, but it wasn't a BlackBerry. It was, like I said, Audio Vox or whatever it was. I can't remember the name. And then I got what? What did I get? Probably a Motorola Flip, but it wasn't a Razor. It was something else.
I
It may have been
know,
a Razor. It's possible it was
I'm
a
pretty
Razor.
sure you had a gray Motorola Razor.
Yeah, it's very possible it
Because
was a Razor, and I just can't remember.
I'm pretty sure mom also had some form of Motorola. It was
Well,
pink. It was like a pink flippable phone, but I don't remember like
yeah,
what brand it
no,
was.
it wasn't. it wasn't
Maybe it was
flippable.
in Motorola.
It wasn't flippable. It was one of those slide outs, and I can't remember
I
the
thought it
name
was.
of it right
Oh, you're
now.
right. It was one of those slide
Uh
outs.
huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the one of the slide outs, and I can't remember the name of it. So I mean, just going from me growing up to where I went from, we still had, radio dial phones when I was little, to then cord touch tone phones, to then wireless phones, to then cell phones. So see, I've seen what is
Yeah,
that, four different generations of phones, and you've basically only been realistically
three.
exposed to or used two, the wireless and the cell phone. That's realistically all you've ever seen. I don't
I've
know if you've
I've
seen a corded phone.
I have. I used a rotary phone.
Where did you use a rotary phone at? I mean, I thought that all
Great
died
grandparents.
yeah, but by the early 90s, I thought they were all gone.
Mm-mm. They still had one up against that door near the fire pit. It was a They had a rotary phone there, and I used to mess. I also played with a rotary phone toy that had the
Oh, well,
eyes and the
yeah.
face. Yeah,
Yeah.
I played with
Yeah.
one of those too. But
Well,
I used the
yeah.
actual
I
rotary
played with
phone
that toy too, so that toy'd been around for a while.
because I got fussed at because I dialed 911 on it. I dialed 911 on the rotary phone. I didn't know what I was doing. I just liked hearing the sound when I spun it around. And I dialed 911 on it.
Yeah, I do remember that. I remember hearing about that. It's like he dialed 911. It's like, well, beat him. He'll be all right.
yeah,
He'll be all right.
yeah, my
Like, no, we're
bad.
not gonna do that. Like,
I,
well, that's fine. Whatever you think you need
I
to
didn't know
do,
what I
I'm
was
gonna leave that
doing.
up to y'all.
So that was a whoopsie. And then I used like the only one I haven't actually used is like the actual like more modern-ish, like the more popularized in like the mid to late 80s, to where you like have the cord, like the cord that the telly ties that chicks around my age used to put their hair up in ponytails and stuff with. The one that had that you could like press the numbers on. Not like the one that people think of now when you think of like a wireless phone. It still had a cord, but
Yeah,
you could like manually press the numbers on instead of like doing the rotary thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a touch tone phone. That's what I was saying.
Oh, okay, yeah, that one. I've never used one of those.
You've never used it. I mean, you kind of have because they've all been touch tone effectively since late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, I mean, I've never like actually used like that kind though, to where like the numbers are on the phone itself and not like on a separate thing. I've never used that kind
Okay, well,
to where you're holding
on
it and all that. I haven't
on
used that.
that, do you think the rotary phone should make a comeback?
Absolutely.
I mean, as far as nostalgia goes, yeah, but I mean, is it like
Actually, I
is
would
that a
honestly like
thing?
either one of them to make a comeback. Either one of them making a comeback would be fantastic
I
because
mean, touch tone,
there's something
yeah,
so satisfying, especially on the rotary end of like
yeah,
hearing it.
yeah, I get it because I remember doing that as a little kid, where you like stick your finger in a little hole and you spin it around.
Yeah, I really liked
Yeah,
hearing it.
it was extremely annoying. Touch tone was so much better. Coming from somebody that has used both,
Yeah,
touch
I
tone
mean,
was just better.
apparently, I've never experienced it, but apparently with touch tone, there's something very, very satisfying of like setting it down and hearing that sound, like that clank sound when you set it back down on the receiver.
I don't
The
know. That
the hang
never,
up in.
yeah, yeah, that never did anything for me. No, but
I've
just the
never
fact of
used
not
one,
having
so I
to,
don't know.
just the fact of not having to hit the rotary to dial a number was very great because it was so much faster. Just hit the number instead of, you stick your finger in there.
Yeah,
That just took forever to call somebody to where other than
yeah.
beep, 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 and you're done.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean, this is
I
before
have a.
area codes were required to call a number, so it was a while ago.
I'm just. I'm just chilling with a smartphone. So, all I have to do is hit call and whoever I want to call and it's done. I don't have to
I
type
mean,
anything.
yeah, and that has also made us dumber because we don't remember
We don't
people's
remember
numbers
phone numbers
anymore.
anymore.
I mean, I remember back when I used to know a lot of people's numbers, and now I literally know two off the top of my head.
I know yours and
I,
mom's off
I
the top of my head.
yeah,
That is it.
yeah, I could possibly stretch it to four, but that's about
Yeah.
it. Just because I just don't pay attention anymore.
Well,
It's stored in my phone. I just find them and hit the button. That's
I
it.
I kind of know my sister's off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure the one in
Well,
my brain right now is correct, but I'm not 100 on it.
I mean that's fair, but you don't actively dial people's numbers anymore. You may dial a business, but you've probably already looked that up. You're not like,
Nine times out of 10, if I'm calling someone, they're already in my text messages, and I just open up the text message and hit the call
and
icon
hit
at the
the
top
call
right.
button. Exactly.
I don't
I
even
mean,
waste the
yeah,
time to scroll through my contacts and find them. If I'm calling
unless
you,
they're
I've already texted you.
right, or they're in my recents, or they're in my
Yeah,
favorites. It's one of the three. If you're not in either of those, well, it's to the text messages we go.
I don't even remember enough because like it'll like auto tell you what you're using or like who you're trying to call to where like you can type in like the first three and then you can hit like a number or two after that and it'll like pop up somebody whose
Yeah,
number is close to
it'll
what you've
start.
hit.
Yeah, it'll
Yeah,
start pulling up
I
people.
don't even do that. I don't even do that.
That's too much work.
Yeah, yeah.
Gen
Smartphone has
Z,
made me way too lazy. I swear. I mean,
Gen Z, just
honestly,
lazy.
well, yeah, I don't agree with or disagree with that, but the biggest thing about it is I don't know why most people even bother asking questions anymore, and I do it myself. Like I'll ask a bunch of questions, but we live in the world with smartphones and internet and unlimited data. If you have a
Exactly.
question, why ask the person next to you?
The
Google's
answer is
in your
always
pocket.
the answer. That's
Look
what
it
I've
up.
told you. What I've told you for years. I mean, like the answer
It's
is
what you
right
told
there in
me
your hand.
earlier in the podcast.
Just yeah, just look it up. It's right there. Why do you want to ask somebody when you can Google it yourself? Or in your case, going back to earlier tonight before we started this chat here, you just asked an AI chatbot a question. I'm like, why aren't you just Googling it? I mean, I didn't grow up,
Okay, that's valid.
but the whole time you were growing up, Googling was a thing.
Chat GPT is free. So is Google.
So is
But
Google. I mean, if you're paying for internet, you have access to both. That's
like
just what it is. So
like
why are you asking a artificial intelligence a question when you could use your brain
here's
and
why.
frame your question into a search bar?
Here's why. Here's why.
That's what I don't understand.
I can
Why?
ask Chat GPT a question. And when I ask it a question, instead of going through like Google, like if I type the same exact question into Google, Google is going to like tell me here's one, here's the other, blah 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 all the way through.
Yeah, they're going to show you a lot of sponsored ads that you have to filter through before you get to the
It's also
actual
going to give
answer.
you like each source individually. Like this is what Reddit says, this is what this site says, blah blah blah. ChatGPT will summarize all of that into one thing and then give you a list of all of the sources. So I can get all of the information at once through ChatGPT versus clicking on all of the sources Google will give me individually. That's why I use ChatGPT over that. Not
Okay,
sponsored, by
but
the way.
is it okay on that topic, but isn't like options better to where you can see different viewpoints versus a realistically programmed thing telling you the answer?
I still get different viewpoints though. It still summarizes all of the
Do
different
you?
viewpoints and
Do
then
you
lists all of
though?
yes. It
But do
lists
you
it
really?
yes. It
If you look
summarizes
at
all of the different viewpoints into one thing and then it lists all of its sources to where if one
but
viewpoint intrigues me more, I can just click on the source that viewpoint came from.
okay,
It's
well,
faster.
in that case, depending on what we're talking about, you're taking effectively one person's viewpoint instead of multiple viewpoints to form a conclusion. Okay. So if you're doing that, aren't you being a bit narrow minded?
No, because I'm reading multiple viewpoints before picking the one that is closer.
So it just spits out multiple viewpoints and you pick which one you like the best.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't actually use it for that specifically. Like that's a horrible example of what it's used for.
Yeah, which kind of means I'm right there, right? Because you see the flaw in that logic. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, because that logic is basically going, all of these things say this is the answer, and this one thing says this is the answer, and you choose the one that makes you right. Like that's not no. That's not what I use it for. I use it when I get stuck on something and I'm trying to like figure it out, and it'll like kind of say this site says this site says this, and it'll go through all of them, and then I'll kind of like systematically try each one of them, and it'll list the sources that it got all of them from down below. And it helps me kind of problem solve when my mind gets stuck and I can't seem to figure it out on my own. Kind of like a
I
helping
mean,
hand.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, but there are also actual real people that you can ask questions to get an answer. I mean, yes, there
Those
is a
real people
place
tell me to
for.
look it up.
I
Nope,
apologize.
nope, 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 nope. I won on that one. I won. I'm
I
the victor.
apologize. I apologize. I mean,
Take
we
a
just
victory
literally
lap right
said
now.
it like what 5 minutes ago. It's like you
Yeah.
got the phone, you got Google, you got the internet in your pocket. Just
The
look
amount
it
of
up.
times you told me to
That
look it
does
up and now you're fussing at me for looking it up. That's wild.
no, you're not. You're not looking it up. You're cheating by
I'm
using
not.
an AI to tell you the answer.
The AI
You're
is
not
looking it
using
up for me, and I'm just reading all of the resources at
exactly.
once.
You're not using your brain to come up with
No, 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 no.
a question framed
My
in a way that would give you an answer that you're looking for.
my
That's
brain
my
got
point.
hard stuck though. My brain got hard stuck. It was
Well, if
hard
you're hard
stuck
stuck,
bronze. It was hard stuck bronze, and the AI helped me become a champ. That's all I needed.
or maybe you're hard stuck playing Guild Wars. I don't know. Either way, hey, look, just use your brain to think. If you get stuck, then you go to the AI for options. That's my opinion. Don't, because this also leads into another topic of conversation for a later episode.
I agree.
But if you start relying on AI, do you stop thinking and reasoning for yourself? Maybe.
We can tie that in though. We can tie that in right now. So you bringing up the point of like futuristic technology. I mean, well, not that futuristic. We already have it, but like once there's more of it, right? And we're relying on it even more. So if you start relying on it even more to the point to where you're not really thinking for yourself, you can kind of argue that cell phones did the same thing. You're relying on the phone to remember all the numbers, so you don't have to anymore. It's the same thing. It's just technological advancement, but this one's a bit more of a step than the last one was. I
Is
mean, it
it the
makes
same
sense.
thing? Is it the same thing? I mean, I get your point. I do.
It
I
is and
see
it
it.
isn't, but that's like
Exactly.
basically
It
the same
is and
argument,
it
though.
isn't. But one is just, it is what it is. The other is more or less either A, opinions, or B, various views, which honestly, that could be tied back into opinions, depending. So, I mean, a number is a number. You can't change that. Somebody's number is their number. Somebody's idea or thought process or
They can change their number, though.
viewpoint, well, that's a different issue. Somebody's viewpoint, if you take all of them into account, could shape your opinion differently. That's my point.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
the more, okay, let's see, let's back up. Not the more, but the varied viewpoints that you see, the more likely you are to form a cohesive. informed opinion on your own viewpoint. So we're like, okay, I see what they're saying. I see what they're saying. I see what they're saying. And then you decide like where, your take on it, I guess, like your viewpoint, your opinion, what you believe falls in that spectrum. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You're
So I'm not wrong.
no, you're not. You're uh I'm trying to think of how I want to phrase it. You're you're basically that kind of sounds like I'm putting words into your mouth. So I'm trying to like form the thought process in my head and like make it English to the point to where it still makes sense without me just relying on you to understand what I'm saying.
Well, I'm capable.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so correct me if I'm wrong, but let me finish my thought before you start correcting
Oh,
at the
don't
very least.
worry, I will.
I am sure. But basically you're saying like if you rely so much on one thing, like AI to like make your decisions, you're no longer like a free thinking person and you're not like making your own decisions, you're not like purposely like choosing to do this over the other thing. And we can definitely get into this like deeper into like different episode or something. But I completely agree with you, but at the same time, if you like go into something with that viewpoint, you're going into it like with almost in my mind the wrong viewpoint, you know? Like yes, it's bad to like fully rely on something to the point to where you can't think for yourself, but at the same time, you can also like view it as like a tool that just makes your life easier, right? Like smartphones are just a tool that make your life easier. You don't have to constantly remember phone numbers because the phone does it for you.
True. I don't disagree there.
Why would I have to constantly go through everything on the internet and like see multiple different sources? Would ChatGPT can list all of them in summary and then put the
But
sources
can
at the
it?
bottom for me to yes.
But can it? Are you sure?
Yes.
Because I will challenge you. This is a
It checks it
challenge,
every time I use it.
and this is a challenge. Okay, I will challenge you right now, and I'm actually typing this down in our notes here. I will challenge you to search for something on ChatGPT. Okay, whatever topic, and then search for it on like just a straight up Google search.
I got ChatGPT going, and then we're gonna do the same thing on a Google search. And because I'm lazy, I'm just gonna
to
copy paste
see
this.
to see the difference.
I'm not gonna say it's like gonna list absolutely everything on the internet, but it's going to list like the most prevalent, like the most popular.
Exact. That's my point. Just because it's the most popular doesn't mean it's the most correct, or it's not the most correct in that circumstance. That is my point. You have to be able to, you know, like filter the information. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
All right. So here's the deal. We can save this for later. We can come back around to this because I know we will. We always circle around. This is what we do because, as with most history and everything else, everything is cyclical. Just that's what it is. What goes around comes around. That's why history repeats itself over and over and over. Sometimes we see it, sometimes we don't. It's what it is, though.
that's why it's so
So,
important to like know history as well because what you don't know
exactly,
will repeat itself.
exactly. So, what's next? We don't know, but we can look back to look forward. I know that sounds stupid, but actually it's not. And we'll get into that in another episode. But right now, I think it's a good time to stop this because we are over an hour, and that's long enough to, aggravate anybody with our nonsense. So,
Exactly.
yeah, thank everybody for listening. Hope you have a good rest of your day or whatever. Till next time, see ya.